Joe made the decision, and I trusted him entirely. We would work together with Major Jackson and his remaining platoon. I had an enormous amount of faith and confidence in Joe's leadership ability and judgment. We both extended our hand to Major Jackson and said, "We'll bring you back to camp as soon as we empty the store of everything and anything we can find, useful for our group and most importantly, Kristen." Major Jackson called out to 4 of his men and said, "You 4 help Joe and Brian cover every square inch inside. Help them collect anything they need. We can load it up between our Humvees," he said. I replied, "That won't be necessary, sir. We have our own set of wheels right here," as I pointed over to the 1966 Ford Bronco. The major said that was the first civilian vehicle he had seen still operational since the EMP detonated on July 19th. I said it was a neighbor's vehicle. We secured it before we bugged out to Wood Creek months ago. The remaining soldiers stood guard outside while Major Jackson returned to the lead Humvee to contact the remaining men, still stationed back at the hospital. The 6 of us each grabbed shopping carts to load up with supplies. Joe's first priority was Kristen and finding any kind of medicine, antibiotics, vitamins, and baby formula for ever approaching childbirth. The pharmacy was completely wiped out. Most women depended on an epidural block during labor to alleviate pain in the lower body. With the world flipped upside down and the clock turned back 150 plus years, Kristen, unfortunately, would not have that luxury. Joe had hoped to find some type of narcotics and opioids to help lessen the pain for her labor. As you can imagine, the pharmacy was completely looted. Sterilization and contagion was another worry for us. Hand sanitizer was as desired almost as much as food and water were. Even in rural America, the electronics section was wiped clean. There were no TVs, laptops, iPods, video games left. These silly people had no idea what initially happened. The electronics weren't going to work, and we didn't know for sure if the power grid and normality would ever return. I headed for the sporting goods and camping section first. Hopes of scoring ammunition quickly faded as I rounded the corner. Nothing but a few empty boxes remained laying on the shelves. The gun case was smashed open and emptied as well. Armageddon had no bias whether you lived urban, suburban, or rural. Life was now survival of the fittest. Those best adapted to particular conditions will succeed in the long run and hopefully be the ones to rebuild our country. A quick scan further down the aisle produced some luck. 14 one-gallon propane tanks sat on the shelf still. I had 2 Mr. Buddy heaters that used them, along with a Coleman cooktop. The majority of food inside was long gone. What was left had now spoiled. But there in the camping section was 12 packages of Mountain House freeze-dried food in 3 different selections. Chicken and rice, spaghetti and meatballs, and scrambled eggs. Not huge scores, but anything was a morale boost. Major Jackson's men secured blankets, pillows, clothes for our group. We could never have enough blankets to help keep a group of 30 plus warm for the winter. When Joe and I originally entered through the back door, I noticed plenty of backstock and thought maybe, just maybe, I could find ammo back there. Even though I had originally started with over 15,000 rounds of 5.56 and a few thousand rounds of 12 gauge, we were expending it at a pace faster than I had hoped to. We were extremely low on 9mm and 7.62 and 308. As I made my way through the doors where the dead body of one of the military imposters still laid, there it was. A pallet full of ammo, must have been 5 feet high. I grabbed a hand jack, lifted the pallet off the ground to wheel it back out. This was the biggest score since discovering the Bronco months back. Joe came around the corner, and before he saw the pallet, he saw the ear-to-ear smile on my face. Jackpot, I said. Jesus, there must be over 100,000 rounds there, he exclaimed. Joe had scored peroxide, rubbing alcohol, aspirin, diapers, wipes, bottles, and the 4 remaining cans of formula. With 6 shopping carts full of gear and supplies and a pallet of ammo, we made our way back outside. I was hesitant about revealing the pallet of ammunition to Major Jackson, but he just nodded. Said Christmas came early, huh? Did you find everything you were looking for, he asked. Joe replied back, actually, no, sir, we didn't. In less than 2 months, Kristen will be giving birth. We have no surgical equipment or medicine for her. Do you think we can check the hospital before we take you back to camp? It's pushing 1,900 hours, Joe. We don't travel at night, regardless of how close the location is. It's just too dangerous, Major Jackson stated. We still have the dead bodies of 3 of our men that need a proper burial. We do not leave our dead behind to be picked apart by wild animals. You and Brian will stay with us tonight at the hospital, with the platoon. You're more than welcome to search throughout the hospital for anything you need. Carswell here is a medic, and he could possibly assist with a labor and childbirth if you and Brian choose to join our group. Being former military, I knew Joe was open to that idea. I, however, wasn't. I had not only a family, but a group of 31 people to protect and lead. They were my concern and priority. With no other real choice, we decided to take Major Jackson up on his offer and spend the night at the hospital. Fortunately for us, there was a truck in the parking lot abandoned with a landscaping trailer attached to it. Just what we needed to unload all this ammo onto. Joe lowered the gate, and I pulled down the zero-turn John Deere mower to make room for our stash of goodies. Joe removed the shrink wrap off the pallet, and with dusk approaching, we began loading every round of freedom. Boxes upon boxes of 223, 5.56, 9mm, 22 LR, 12 gauge, 7.62, 45, 357, and 308. I'd imagine this is what like winning the lottery would have felt like before the world collapsed and went to shit. As we prepared to depart for the short trip back up Route 19, Major Jackson radioed out to the remaining unit back at Wyoming County Hospital that the convoy is en route. No answer back. He again transmitted the message. Dead air was all he heard. Seconds went by that felt like minutes for him, when finally a voice answered back, and it was not what he expected.
Внимание! С вами будет говорить президент Российской Федерации Владимир Путин. Оставайтесь на линии.
We were standing close enough to hear the transmission Major Jackson heard. It was Russian, but neither Joe nor I had any idea what he said. The Major had some idea, judging by the look in his eyes and on his face. It obviously wasn't good. Carswell asked, "What did he say, sir?" The Major answered, "They returned to the hospital and have all 12 of our men hostage. They want us to surrender, or they will kill them. He's given me exactly 2 minutes to answer, and if I don't, they'll start executing them, one by one, every 5 minutes. He said, this is Putin's country now." "What are we going to do, sir?" asked Carswell. "I don't know, Lieutenant," Major Jackson answered. Joe and I both knew if the platoon was to fight, we would be joining them. "This will never be Putin's country," Joe angrily vented. 45 seconds, sir," Lieutenant Garcia stated. "Decision time. Fight and let his men die, or surrender like cowards and probably die anyway." 30 seconds, sir." It sounded like a no-win situation, no matter what the Major decided. 20 seconds, sir." Major Jackson had sweat pouring down his face, even though dusk was close to darkness and there was a chill in the air. 15 seconds, sir, as he reached for the radio with his hands still in a steady state. His lips quivered as he held down the transmit button. 5 seconds, sir.